I am Ashwini Kumar, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication, Babu Bransidas University, Lucknow. In this lecture, I am going to discuss about the semiconductor diode. To study the semiconductor diode, we need to study semiconductor materials. In this regard, we need to study the atomic structure of semiconductor materials. So let us start with the structure of an atom. The most fundamental unit of matter which can exist independently is an atom. An atom consists of electrons, protons and neutrons. Protons and neutrons are found there in the nucleus. But there is an exception to this fact, which is hydrogen atom. Hydrogen has only one proton in its nucleus without any neutron. An electron moves in approximately elliptical orbits around the nucleus. Protons and neutrons have almost the same mass. Proton is positively charged, but neutron is neutral, that is no charge. Electron is much lighter than proton and neutron. An electron is negatively charged. Since atom in its normal state is electrically neutral, it means number of orbiting electrons must be equal to number of protons in the nucleus. Now we will study about the atomic number. The number of protons in an atom is called its atomic number. All the electrons do not move in the same orbit. Electrons are arranged in different cells or orbits. Electrons are distributed among the different orbits by the rule 2n square, where n is the number of shells. Here we have table in which we have shown how many electrons will be orbiting in different orbits. In this table there are three columns. First column is n, second is 2n square, and third one is the maximum number of electrons. So if we take n equals to 1, then value of 2n square will be 2. It means first cell contain maximum number of 2 electrons. If n is taken as 2, value of 2n square will be 8, and second shall contain maximum number of 8 electrons. And for n equals to 3, 2n square equals to 18. It means third cell can contain maximum number of 18 electrons. N equals to 4, 2n square is 32. So fourth cell can contain maximum number of 32 electrons, and so on. But there is an exception to this rule. If any cell happens to be an outermost shell, then it cannot contain more than 8 electrons. Outermost shell is also called as valence shell, and electrons belonging to valence shell is called as valence electron. In this module we have to study semiconductor materials, that is silicon and germanium. So let us study about the atomic structure of these materials. Atomic number of silicon atom is 14. So electronic configuration of silicon atom will be 2, 8, 4. That is, number of cells will be 3, and the third cell is the outermost shell, which is also called as valence shell. Valence shell consists of 4 electrons, and these 4 electrons are also called as valence electrons. Atomic number of germanium atom is 32, and the electronic configuration will be 2, 8, 18, 4. That can also be seen from the atomic structure of the germanium atom. Here we see number of proton equals to 32 and number of neutron is 41. And from the electronic configuration, we notice that number of cells are 4 in this case. So fourth shell is the outermost shell, and valence shell contains 4 electrons, and these 4 electrons are also called as valence electrons. Now we have studied about the valence electrons. Now we'll be studying about the innermost electrons. So electrons in the inner cells other than the valence shell or outermost shell are called as bound electrons or bounded electrons. Because they are bounded tightly to the nucleus, inner shell electrons are closer to the nucleus, and nucleus being positively charged attracts the negatively charged electrons with great force. So these inner shells electrons are not allowed to leave the atom at normal condition, or we can say these inner electrons cannot take part in any chemical reaction because they are tightly bonded to the nucleus. We have studied about the valence electrons and bonded electrons. Now we will study about the free electrons. As we have already discussed that outermost shell is called as valence shell. We know that electrons of the atom take part in the chemical reactions to make compounds. It is the valence electrons which take part in the chemical reaction. Valence shell is farthermost from the nucleus. It means electrons in the valence shell will experience less force of attraction from the nucleus. Therefore, when valence electrons get sufficient energy from the ambient, they leave the atom and start wandering randomly from one atom to another. The electrons which can move in this manner across the structure are called as free electrons. Now we will study about the energies of the electrons. This is the diagram of the energy level of silicon atom. Here there are 3 orbits are shown, n equals to 1, n equals to 2 and n equals to 3. From the energy level diagram, it is clear that any isolated atom has only certain number of orbits available. These available orbits represents energy levels for the electrons. Modern physics suggests that there is no continuous distribution of energy, but only discrete values of electron energies are possible. It means an electron cannot have any energy but only certain permissible energy. Here energy level diagram of isolated silicon atom is given. First energy level, that is n equals to 1, which is closer to the nucleus. An electron orbiting in the first shell is very close to nucleus and is tightly bound to the nucleus. So it will have very small amount of energy. Now third shell for n equals to 3 is the farthest from the nucleus, will experience less force of attraction and therefore will have highest energy. It means greater the distance of an electron from the nucleus, the greater is its energy. So we can say in this diagram that E3 is greater than E2 and E2 is greater than E1, means energy of E3 is greater and energy of E1 is lesser. So we can say energy of the third level electrons will be maximum. So we can say electrons orbiting in the third orbit will be having maximum energy. It means greater the distance of an electron from the nucleus, the greater is its energy. It is the valence electron having maximum energy. Those can be taken out of the orbit. That is why it is the valence electron that take part in the chemical reaction. Now we have studied the energy level diagrams of isolated atom. But what will happen if atoms form a solid structure? So far we have studied the energy level diagram of a single isolated atom. But what will happen if these atoms form a solid structure? When atoms bond together to form a solid, then energy level diagram will not be applicable. Because 3D solid structure, millions of atoms are there. Therefore, each electron will experience the different charge pattern around them. So energy of each electrons will differ slightly, unlike in the case of energy level diagram. Therefore, we can say that millions of electrons belonging to first cell will have different energies. Since there are millions of first cell electrons, and these electrons will occupy different energy level because they have different energies. Therefore, we get closely spaced energy levels which differ very slightly, form a band or cluster. Similarly, all second orbit electrons form second band and so on up to the outermost band or valence band as shown in this energy band diagram. Here we see here energy band diagram of silicon solid structure is shown. Right from the first band, then second band, third band which is the valence band, and then conduction band. Now we will study about the conduction band. Here we see that an additional band called as conduction band is also shown above the valence band. The conduction band represents next larger group of permissible energy levels. Energy difference between conduction band and valence band is called as Eg. This energy gap is also called as forbidden energy gap. If we add energy E which is greater than Eg to the valence electron, then valence electron will accept it and will go to the conduction band. But if the supplied energy E is less than the Eg, then the valence electron will not accept it and will not go to the conduction band. If we add energy E which is less than Eg, then this valence electron will not accept it because there is no permissible energy level are available. If we add energy E less than Eg to the valence electron, then valence electron will not accept it. An electron in conduction band experience almost negligible nuclear attraction, or we can say that electrons in conduction band are no longer property of the individual atoms and it moves freely in the solid structure. That is why these electrons are called as free electrons. Now we will study metals, insulators and semiconductors on the basis of energy band diagram. Let us start with the metals. Metals such as aluminium, copper, etc. contains large number of free electrons at room temperature. There is no energy gap between conduction band and valence band as shown in the diagram. In fact, these two bands overlap with each other, or we can say energies of these two bands are same. It means there is no energy gap. So at room temperature, almost every valence electron becomes conduction electrons or free electrons without need of any additional energy. That is why metals works as a good conductor. Insulators. Insulators such as rubber, plastics, glass, wood, etc. do not support electrical current at room temperature. There is large forbidden energy gap between conduction and valence band, which is about 6 electron volt or more as shown in the energy band diagram of the insulators. Due to this large forbidden energy gap, it is practically impossible for a valence band electron to cross the energy gap to reach the conduction band at room temperature. At room temperature, insulators do not conduct because there are no conduction electrons in it. Now we will study about the semiconductors. Elements such as silicon and germanium are called as semiconductors. Silicon and germanium have conductivity lower than that of conductor but greater than that of insulator. That is why these materials are called as semiconductors. In case of semiconductors, the forbidden energy gap is not very large, as shown in the energy band diagram of semiconductors. It is of the order of 1 electron volt. For silicon, it is 1.12 electron volt, and for germanium, it is 0.72 electron volt. At room temperature, the heat is sufficient to lift the electron from valence band to conduction band. So at room temperature, semiconductors can support some electric current. Semiconductors are of two types: intrinsic semiconductors and extrinsic semiconductors. We will start with the intrinsic semiconductors. Semiconductors such as silicon or germanium in its extremely purest form is known as intrinsic semiconductors, as shown in the below diagram. Here we see only silicon atoms are shown, no impurity atoms are here. So semiconductors in its extremely purest form is known as intrinsic semiconductor. Below figure shows the solid structure of silicon. Here we see that each of the 4 valence electrons form covalent bond with the 4 adjacent atoms. At absolute zero, all the valence electrons are tightly bound to their parent atoms. Therefore, we see that no free electrons are available for conduction. Therefore, it is concluded that semiconductors behaves as a perfect insulator at absolute zero. Now the concept of hole. We have seen that semiconductor behaves as a perfect insulator at absolute zero because all the valence electrons are bounded to their parent atom. But what will happen if temperature is increased? Let us investigate this condition at room temperature. Will there be any electrical current in the intrinsic semiconductor at room temperature? At room temperature such as 300 K, heat is sufficient to make a valence electron to move away from the influence of its nucleus, as shown in the diagram. Here we see the covalent bond between two silicon bonds has been broken and the electron has become free. When this phenomenon occurs, we say that a covalent bond is broken. When this happens, the electron becomes free to move in the crystal, as shown in the energy band diagram. Here we see that an electron in the valence band has jumped to the conduction band, leaving a vacancy in the valence band. This is known as hole. Whenever a covalent bond is broken, a vacancy is created in the broken covalent bond. This vacancy is called as hole because hole is generated by the moving away of an electron. So hole is left with positive charge, or we say hole is positively charged. Whenever a covalent bond is broken, a free electron and a hole is generated simultaneously. This simultaneously point is very important. It means free electron and holes are generated in pairs. This type of generation of free electrons and holes is known as thermal generation. An important note, because equal amount of free electrons and holes are produced, so a very important result is concluded, which is the concentration of free electrons and holes will always be equal in intrinsic semiconductor. Effect of temperature. We know that covalent bond is broken because of heat, and heat is provided by the temperature. So if temperature is increased further, more number of covalent bonds will be broken and more number of free electrons and holes are produced. It means higher the temperature, higher will be the concentration of charge carriers. As more charge carriers are available, the conductivity of intrinsic semiconductor increases with temperature. In other words, we can say resistivity decreases as temperature increases. That is, the semiconductors have negative temperature coefficient of resistance. Now come to the extrinsic semiconductors. When a small amount of impurity is added to the intrinsic semiconductor, that is pure semiconductor, then intrinsic semiconductor is converted into extrinsic semiconductor. The process of adding impurities to an intrinsic semiconductor is called as doping. Extrinsic semiconductors are of two types, N-type semiconductor and P-type semiconductor. Now start with the N-type semiconductors. If we add a small amount of pentavalent impurity such as phosphorus to a sample of intrinsic silicon structure as shown in the below diagram, then it replaces one of the silicon atom as shown in the figure. In the figure we see in between there is a phosphorus atom and silicon atoms are surrounding it. 4 of 5 valence electrons of phosphorus form covalent bonds with 4 neighboring silicon atoms. The 5th electron is in excess and is loosely bound to phosphorus atom. This 5th electron requires very little energy to free itself from the phosphorus atom. And this energy is so small that at room temperature almost all such electrons become free. For example, if we have added 100 phosphorus atoms, so we will be getting 100 free electrons. In other words, we can say that at room temperature, each impurity atom donates 1 electron to the conduction band. In other words, we can say that at room temperature, each impurity atom donates 1 electron to the conduction band. This is the reason that pentavalent impurity is also called as donor. The number of free electrons are far greater than the number of holes which are generated by the breaking of covalent bonds at given temperature. And now we can say that semiconductor has become N-type, that is negatively type. It is clear that in N-type semiconductor, free electrons are majority carrier and holes are minority carrier. Now what will happen to impurity atom P when 5th electron leaves it? Before adding this impurity atom, that is phosphorus atom, it was neutral with its 5 valence electrons. But when 5th electron leaves it, it gets +1 excess charge. It means we get positively charged immobile, or that is fixed ions. It means when N-type semiconductor is formed, by adding pentavalent impurities, we get number of free electrons and immobile ions in equal amount. Now it is clear that when pentavalent impurity such as phosphorus is added to intrinsic semiconductor, we get a free electron and a positively charged immobile ion. Now important point that may be noted here is that pentavalent impurity such as phosphorus donates 1 electron. That is why such type of impurity is also called as donor impurity. Other examples of pentavalent impurities are antimony and arsenic. Now come to P-type semiconductors. If we add small amount of trivalent impurity such as boron to a sample of intrinsic silicon structure as shown in the figure, boron atom has only 3 valence electrons. These 3 valence electrons form covalent bond with the 3 neighboring silicon atoms as is shown in the below figure. But 4th neighboring silicon atom is unable to form a covalent bond as shown in the figure. Then there are chances that one covalent bond between two silicon atoms is broken and the electron jumps to occupy the vacancy around the boron atom, and hence a covalent bond is established between boron and silicon atom. In this process, two things happen. First, a vacancy is created in the neighboring silicon atom, which is called as hole. It is clear that hole will be positively charged. Second, boron with 3 valence electrons was earlier neutral, but now because it has accepted one extra electron, so this boron atom is now negatively charged. The number of holes are far greater than the number of free electrons which are generated by the breaking of covalent bonds at given temperature, and we say that semiconductor has become p-type, that is positively type. It is clear that in p-type semiconductor, holes are majority carrier and free electrons are minority carrier. Now it is clear that when trivalent impurity such as boron is added to intrinsic semiconductor, we get a hole and a negatively charged immobile ion. One important point that is to be noted here is that trivalent impurity such as boron accepts one electron. That is why such type of impurity is also called as acceptor impurity. Other examples of trivalent impurities are aluminium, gallium and indium. Thank you.